Welcome to Velocity City, where you learn about all the exciting news and updates about our beloved sport, Formula 1. Today, we will discuss what the future holds for Aston Martin and what its big problem is. We will discuss in detail about everything, but before we get started, please be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon to get regular updates from Velocity City. Let's get started. Aston Martin had a remarkable start to the 2023 Formula 1 season. After finishing 7th in the Constructors' Championship last year, they were not expected to be a top contender in 2023. However, they surprised everyone with their early pace, scoring 6 podiums in the first 8 races. This turnaround was primarily due to the arrival of Fernando Alonso. However, Aston Martin's performance has since dipped. They have not scored a podium since the Canadian Grand Prix in June, and Mercedes have overtaken them in the Constructors' Championship. There are a number of factors that have contributed to this decline, including some reliability issues and some strategic mistakes. Despite this, Aston Martin's season has been anything short of outstanding. They have made a huge leap from last year and are now one of the most competitive teams on the grid. With Fernando Alonso leading the way, they will be looking to challenge for podiums and even victories in the second half of the season. Aston Martin's remarkable jump forward has made Fernando Alonso look like a mystic. Was it pure luck? Or did he see something no one else did? We may never know. Logic would suggest that he saw the problems coming at Alpine and knew that Aston Martin was led by an incredibly passionate owner who would do whatever it took to succeed. However, as rival teams have introduced upgrades at recent Grand Prix, Aston Martin has fallen in the pecking order. Mercedes and Ferrari have become competitive with them as well. Despite this, when asked how he reflects on the season so far, Alonso responded, "Incredible. It's been a dream first half of the season. We are P3 in the Constructors' Championship in front of Ferrari. We're P3 in the Drivers' Championship together with Lewis. It was impossible to think this way in Bahrain." Aston Martin had a great season overall, but they hit a rough patch in the last 4 races before the Dutch Grand Prix. Alonso's best result between the Canadian and Dutch Grand Prix was 5th place, while McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari grabbed the podiums behind Red Bull. Alonso hinted that the change in form could be linked to the change of tyre construction Pirelli introduced from the British Grand Prix. But the Dutch GP was something else for Alonso. He finished 2nd behind Max after securing 6 podiums in the first 8 races. This is his 7th podium finish after the hiatus of 4 races. He said, "It was a very intense race. Obviously at the beginning, with the wet conditions, we were very fast and we stopped maybe 1 lap too late, but the same as the leaders. The car was flying today, very competitive, very easy to drive. In these conditions, you need a car you can trust. And I did trust the car a lot today. I did enjoy it. Thanks to all the fans, the energy that we have here in Zandvoort is very unique. 2 years ago, when this race came back to the calendar, I thought I'd never experience the Zandvoort podium because I was not able to think about that." Aston Martin was also very happy with the result. They tweeted, "Back in business, podium number 7 of the season for Alonso at the Dutch GP." Aston Martin senior management attributed the team's recent struggles to an upgrade package introduced at the Canadian Grand Prix, which triggered some characteristic changes that the team did not get on top of immediately. These side effects were not noticeable in Montreal because of the low drag nature of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, but did become more exposed when extra load was required at the subsequent races. Performance director Tom McCulloch explained, "You always try to add base performance, but you very rarely can add it without any characteristic change. So there's always that you're trying to understand." In the case of Aston Martin, the upgrade package introduced at the Canadian Grand Prix introduced some unwanted characteristic changes that the team did not fully understand. As a result, the team's performances suffered in the subsequent races. The reintroduction of the ground effect in Formula 1 has made it more challenging for teams to predict how their cars will respond to modifications. Red Bull appears to have mastered the modelling and simulation of ground effect vehicles, while Mercedes has spoken openly about their difficulties comprehending the new car's physics. As McCulloch said, "We've been targeting quite strong development throughout the year. We have had the budget to keep developing the car and that's our aim. So we will be bringing some steps all the way to the end of the championship really, as much as we can do." There have also been rumours that Aston Martin's drop in performance could be due to the FIA's crackdown on flexible wings. The FIA has been paying close attention to this issue this season, as teams have been known to design front wings that are strong enough to pass the pull-down test conducted in the garage, but can flex down in a controlled manner on track, giving them an unfair advantage. The FIA has introduced several new tests to try to catch teams that are using flexible wings. These tests include a static test that measures the amount of flex in the wing when stationary, and a dynamic test that measures the amount of flex in the wing when subjected to aerodynamic loads. Any design that allowed the wings to flex at speed could have been deemed to breach Article 322 of the technical regulations. This rule states all aerodynamic components and bodywork influencing the car's aerodynamic performance must be rigidly secured and immobile with respect to their frame of reference defined in Article 3.3. Furthermore, these components must produce a uniform, solid, hard, continuous, impervious surface under all circumstances. Footage captured from Fernando Alonso's car suggested that Aston Martin could run very high wing angles and that the wing flexed noticeably as it reached top speed on the straights. The team has made a few changes to the front wing during the season, and one of these seems to have had a significant impact. It is possible that the changes made to the Spanish Grand Prix were responsible for the team's sudden drop in performance. Whatever the reason, Aston Martin must refine their form to compete at the front of the grid. Aston Martin's Pedro de la Rosa says, "We know why we're not as competitive in the last few races. So I think we just need to continue developing our car like we've done all season and really did not look too much at what other people are doing." De La Rosa has avoided going into any specifics on what has gone wrong since the Canadian Grand Prix. Instead, he said, "I'm so much looking forward to Zandvoort because obviously we had a pretty good result in Spa with 5th from Fernando, and we are very close from the guys in front. It is true that we are also very close to the guys behind. That's the beauty about Formula 1. But we have slipped back. I repeat, other people possibly have done a better job than us in developing the car so far, but it will come." Aston Martin should be fighting for second place in the Constructors' Championship. However, their lack of a consistent second driver will make that difficult. Lance Stroll's underperformance is undeniable. The difference in performance between him and Fernando Alonso is staggering. Alonso has outqualified Stroll 11 times out of 13 and has finished ahead of him 12 times in the races. Stroll has had a lot of frustrations this year. The fact that his place in Formula 1 is often questioned due to his father's ownership of Aston Martin sometimes obscures the fact that he is still a high-quality driver who rarely gets the credit he deserves. Lance Stroll knows he needs to improve his performance to match his teammates. He has said that a podium finish would help silence his critics, but that he must be consistently challenging Alonso. Recent rumours suggest he may consider taking a short break from Formula 1 to address his performance deficit. Ben Anderson, the former editor of the GP Racing magazine, said Stroll is too far behind Alonso, but really, he's only likely to leave that team voluntarily. He's on a rolling contract in his dad's organisation. There's been some rumours floating around that he's considering a switch to tennis, so if he makes a career switch like that, that opens up a seat. Lance Stroll does enjoy playing tennis in his free time. Perhaps he could pursue a career in tennis instead of Formula 1. What do you think of Aston Martin's recent struggles? Are they due to a bad upgrade or the rest of the grid catching up? What are your thoughts? Tell us in the comment section below.